Yo, what's up, everybody? This is William from BeforeTheBillions back with another video. Hope you guys are doing well today. So I'm going to be going back to my series where I am preparing to go ahead and interview with Meta. And hopefully you guys have seen my series where I'm kind of going through some interview questions through LeetCode and a few other websites as well, preparing for the interview. I know the interview is going to be heavily based on Python and SQL or SQL. And overall, I'm optimistic about the interview. I'm glad that at least they reached out to me, because if a company reaches out to you, that means that they believe that you can do the tasks that the job is requiring. So at least companies like Meta and Google have reached out to me so far in my career to say, hey, I think you have good enough skills and good enough background to be able to work with us. So with that being said, let's go ahead and move on to some SQL questions. I know in the previous ones I was doing more so Python questions, but I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. If you enjoy this type of content, please go ahead and hit the like button. It may be a small click for you, but it means a lot to me, and I would really appreciate it. So let's go ahead. I went to this website called 360digitmg.com, and they have the top 35 SQL interview questions for data engineers. This was last updated November 18th of 2023. So let's go ahead and check it out. So here's the author right here. The first question is, what is SQL? What is SQL? And why is it important in data engineering? You simply cannot become a data engineer without knowing SQL. SQL is structured query language, and it is the language for databases. So that's exactly why you want to be a data engineer who knows SQL. You really won't be successful in the role unless you understand it and can write complex queries with SQL. Overall, it is something so we use SQL more than we use any other language. SQL more than Python, Java, R, whatever language you can think of, you use SQL most of the time, because you create data pipelines, but then you also will have to create data pipelines, but also data analytics as well. So next is, explain the difference between inner join, left join, and right join in SQL. Think of a Venn diagram. A Venn diagram has two circles that intersect each other. The circle on the left, and you have a circle on the right, and you have the inner piece. The inner piece that covers both items that are similar to the inner, or that are similar to the left and the right circle. That is going to be your inner join. Your left join is everything for the left circle, and then for the right join is everything for the right circle. And in SQL, you can replace the word circle with the word table. So if you have two tables, you can do a join on those two tables, and then you have to join it on a particular field or column, and then you have some sort of condition that you'll add onto it, like column A has to equal to column B, and you want to join on the user table with the teachers table for for whatever project, right? You can change the name of the table, but essentially that's what you want to do. You want to take in things that are similar for both tables, things that are only in the left table, and things that are only in the right table. Okay, so that is the joins. What are primary and foreign keys? And I'll go to the example. Well, I'll go to the actual explanation, because it's talking about the different columns. And then, like, a primary key could be something like a user's ID or an alphanumeric value that is unique to a particular person's account. So that's essentially what a primary key can be. As an example, a column or a group of columns that is used to identify each row in a table in a unique way is called a primary key, right? So think of, like, your name would not be a primary key because other people can have the same name as you. So you want to have somebody's ID or alphanumeric value that is unique to that person. A foreign key is a column that establishes a relationship among two columns by referencing the primary key in another table. Okay. So that is the primary and foreign key. Now, I had to get the actual explanation for that one because I wanted to make sure I got it exactly right for the explanation. What is normalization and why is it important in databases? Yeah, normalization, and then when I click on it, it's out of order. But yeah, what is normalization and why is it important? The practice of organizing data to minimize duplication and enhance data integrity is known as normalization. It entails creating linkages between the tables and databases by splitting it up into two or more. Is crucial for effective database performance and design. I have a quick example too about normalization because I remember I had a project, and one of the projects I worked on was we were trying to split up people's first name, last name, their email address, and their phone number. But for some reason, the phone numbers could be completely different, and the names could be completely different. Like they had a column that was like first name, last name, and comma, middle initial, all in one column. So it was just a name column, but we needed to split it up to be first name, last name, and we didn't care about the middle initial. But so what we had to do is we had to normalize the data and organize it in a way so that way we had two different columns, that first name and last name. And for the odd cases where they had people with a middle name, we had to strip that middle name and leave it out. And then if the column or that value in that column had a space or blank where the middle initial was supposed to be, we had to account for that using some regex expressions or regular expressions. So yeah, normalization is something that you're going to have to do very often as a data engineer. But that's just one example of trying to normalize the data so that way everything's organized, looks right, and make sure that it's readable for everybody as well. That way you can do calculations on it. You can create your data pipeline, and it'll be able to go to the right name, because that will cause a whole bunch of issues if you don't normalize the data. So yeah, let's continue. 5, explain the use of group by and having in SQL. So group by groups rows that have the same values in specified columns into summary rows. Having is used to filter records that work on aggregated results, much like where, but for groups. And essentially, right, you can group by a person's if you want to group by all the people who have a certain name, or all the people who came into the process by a certain timestamp, and you can group by that, and you can order it by a different order. So you can go in ascending order, descending order. Having can be like, if I want to get the max value of a timestamp, I want to get the most recent timestamp, I have a max value, and that would be like your aggregated. You get aggregated results, and you want to say having, and I want to have it as having a certain criteria, right? Like if I want to get the max timestamp for all the students who came into class on time, and they were having a number 2 pencil, right? Or some sort of use case that you would have for this type of clause. Okay, so grouping by, as the name suggests, it just groups by. Having is like a where clause for groups. Okay, and grouping by, you also have to define the columns as well. Like I want to group by this column 1, 2, 3, 4, or you can actually list the names of the columns. Like I have the teacher, I have the students, I have the tools or utensils or something like that. For some reason, I'm using school analogies. 6, what is SQL injection and how can it be prevented? Now, I know SQL injection is a part of the OWASP top 10. It has been for many years. SQL injection essentially is you go into a website's browser and you start writing out some sort of SQL query because it may be connected to the database. And then after you inject some harmful information, you can drop people's tables, and dropping tables out of a database will completely ruin a website. I never suggest people to just drop tables. I would always suggest you to create a backup and then switch to, another backup or redundant backup. Another table's like this, the exact same, but whatever change that you were trying to make. I would much rather that, and then you keep the initial table as a backup. You never want to just drop something because you never know. You never know. And then if you do try to drop tables, you will have to try to coordinate that with your team and make sure that you're not causing dependencies to break, because there's a lot of dependencies on certain tables. There may be other teams who may be using the same table as you, and they're having an automated process that's looking at that table, grabbing records from that table, and then doing their own process with it. So if you drop the table, then their process will break. You can have it to where, like, if you drop a table, nothing shows up on the website. You go to Facebook and you can't log in because there's nothing in the table. There's a lot of different reasons. Like, you can't do anything if you drop a table. Like, nothing will show up on the website. Right? Depending on which table. There's a whole bunch of different tables that's going to make up even this website here. But, let's move on to the next question. I'm sorry. Let me read the actual description. So it says, what is SQL injection and how can it be prevented? Data-driven systems can be attacked using the code injection techniques known as SQL injection. Prepared statements, input validation, and parameterized queries can all be used to stop it. Okay, so parameterized is essentially just meaning abstracting some of your queries, so that way it's not just like select star this. It's like, oh, you have like within curly braces, this is your query, right? And it's populated from another process that could help you with preventing SQL injection. People putting bad things into forms on your website as well could also be a case. So you have to be careful of that. What are indexes in SQL and why are they used? Indexes are used to speed up the retrieval of rows from a database table by providing quick access to rows. They work similarly to an index in a book and are particularly useful on large tables. That is definitely because you want to make sure that and then for large tables, over time, tables are going to get larger and larger. You're going to be having automated processes, putting more records into it. And you want to make sure that you have your large tables. They're going to be, you want to use timestamps and make sure that your tables are partitioned. You don't want to just select star on a large table, and you don't want to keep adding on more to a large table that makes your queries slower and then also will lead to queries running out of resources as well within your, like if you're in a cloud environment or something like that, or maybe just the query just takes several hours or days in some cases to run on one table, which can really harm a business and their processes. So you don't want to get a table that's too large. If anything, you want to be able to kind of archive some of that data, and or you want to be able to archive that data, but also kind of split up some of those records, and also partition. Explain the concept of transaction. I think this is going to be the last one. Explain the concept of transactions in SQL. In SQL, a transaction is a series of actions carried out as a single logical work unit. To maintain the integrity in the database, it must either be finished completely or not at all. So yes, you can definitely have, like we have, I've worked with different transaction log tables, and essentially it would hold on to like the timestamps that a particular record would come through. So let's say if I have a job that's running and it runs every 30 minutes and the time interval is every 30 minutes, if I go to the transaction log table, I say, okay, I see a transaction that came up 30 minutes ago. If I want to reprocess the previous records that just came through that last transaction, for whatever reason, something was corrupted or something was messed up, I can go and delete out of the transaction log table the last timestamp, and then in the next one, it will reprocess all those records from this current run and then also the previous run that happened 30 minutes ago. So it will process an hour's worth of records. All right, it's something I've had to do several times. So with that being said, guys, hope you all enjoyed this type of content. This is a little bit different from like the coding, and I'm going to go back to coding as well. But I wanted to kind of go over a few of these questions and kind of talk to them about like from my experience. I know I'm not 100% with everything because, you know, when you talk to like technical people, every word matters. So you have to be very mindful of this, especially going into interviews. Every word matters, and that attention to detail is what they're looking for. So with that being said, guys, I'm working on expanding my skills, getting more experience, and providing some more value for you guys as well. Please go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And also hit that bell notification icon if you want to be notified whenever I make new videos on YouTube. Also, guys, please consider checking out my website down below in the link in the description, and also joining the newsletter and checking out and joining the Discord so that way you can speak with me or anybody else within the BTB squad. I would really appreciate it. I will see you all in the next video.